When every new season begins, players and teams respectively enter the campaign with their own individual set of expectations and goals. Realistically, not everyone can win the championship or win the MVP award, so some goals are loftier than others. But the star players are expected to perform like the best players in the league, so when they don't, or if they can't do so consistently enough, it results in some disappointment. In today's video, we're going to be discussing 5 star players in particular who, to varying degrees, let everyone down last season, so in the upcoming season they are in need of a big bounce back year. This doesn't necessarily mean that these players were bad last season, they just didn't perform at the level we all know they're capable of performing at, and if they want to continue being viewed as highly as they are, they need to get right this season. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first star player in desperate need of a bounce-back season in 2024 is James Harden of the Philadelphia 76ers. Well, he's technically still a member of the 76ers, but that could possibly change between now and the start of the season, which actually partially contributes to why he's on this list in the first place. Harden didn't necessarily have a bad season at all last year, quite the contrary. He was the league's leading assist man, he was relatively efficient, and he helped Joel Embiid win the MVP award with the two of them creating one of the best two-man games in the league. The biggest critiques of Harden, however, have always been on the fact that he has a history of shrinking in some of the biggest moments, and that, combined with the fact that he's now trying to dodge accountability and quit on his third team in a 3-year span, is just a really bad look. Harden had 2 unreal performances in the second round of the playoffs against the Boston Celtics, but he also had 5 really poor performances in the rest of the games in that series, and in Game 6 and 7 in particular, when the Sixers could have closed the series out, he shot a combined 7 of 27 from the field and 1 of 11 from 3 in those 2 games. Based on how he has handled his future contract situation, he clearly thinks that he is still a max-level player, but at 34 years old, he's going to need a major bounce-back year, and probably a deep playoff run with whatever team he ends up on to prove it. The next star player in need of a big bounce-back year in 2024 is Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks. Trey Young has become one of the most polarizing talents in the NBA today because his fans will point out the fact that his production is as good or better than damn near every other point guard in the league, but his skeptics point out that his play style is detrimental to winning basketball games at times, and his inability to defend makes him a liability. The truth obviously lies somewhere in between, but with that being said, Trey definitely did not play up to his own standard last year, even if his per-game averages looked nice on paper. Trey has shown that he can elevate his play in big moments and take over games in the playoffs, as he did in 2021 when he led his Hawks team all the way to the conference finals, and last offseason the Hawks went out of their way to find him another all-star caliber running mate for the backcourt in DeJounte Murray, yet the team didn't improve one bit from 2022 and in some ways actually took a step backward. Trey himself shot the worst he has shot since his rookie season from both the field and from 3, making just 42% of his shots and 33% of his threes, and his ball-dominant playstyle combined with inefficiency is always going to be a recipe for disaster. The Hawks are close to the limit in terms of win-now moves that they're capable of making, and yet it doesn't seem like it's enough. So if Trey can't get back on track and perform like the superstar he has shown that he can be, then some uncomfortable conversations are going to have to be had, because the worst place that an NBA team can be is locked into the middle of the pack, and the Hawks are flirting with that range right now. The next star player in desperate need of a big bounce-back season this year is KarlAnthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have a lot of questions that need answering after the way that their season went last year, and Towns is at the center of a lot of them. Last offseason, the Wolves made a huge, yet strange splash when they traded for multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year winner Rudy Gobert, which, in theory, should have helped a team in desperate need of defensive reinforcements, but the addition came came at the expense of Towns, who plays the same position. The Wolves tried their best to make do with their new Twin Towers lineup last year, but with Towns now forced to play a lot more power forward, he just never looked very comfortable out there. He finished the season with career lows nearly across the board, as he scored fewer points per game than he ever has since his rookie season, he shot worse from the field than he ever has before in his career, he grabbed fewer rebounds per game than he ever has in his career, and he shot a worse percentage from 3 in a season since his rookie year as well. He also struggled with injuries throughout the season, managing to play in just 29 games, which gives him some leeway this year, because admittedly the sample size of him and Gobert being together on the court was small, but it also didn't look great in that small sample size either. If this setup is going to work, then the Wolves need Towns to get back to being the sharpshooter, elite scoring threat that he once was, and if he can't do it from the power forward position, then the Wolves may need to put him on the trade block. The next star player in need of a big bounce-back year in 2024 is Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, the manner in which Zion needs to bounce back is a bit different compared to the others on this list, because Zion's bounce back on the court literally just requires him to be able to stay on the court. Everybody, whether it be his fans, coaches, front office members, or even teammates, are starting to grow impatient with his inability to stay healthy, and then his reported lack of commitment to his rehabilitation process. Out of a possible 318 regular season games over the last 4 years, Zion has played in only 114 of them, which just isn't good enough. He's been criticized about his inability to take care of his own health and fitness, he's out of shape, and while this is hearsay, I've definitely seen reports that have said that he doesn't go as hard as he needs to in his rehab from these injuries, which makes sense because he's suffered countless setbacks, delaying his return to the court over the years. When Zion is healthy, there are very few other power forwards as good as he is. He scored 26 points per game last season, shooting the ball 61% from the field, and he dominates the paint like few we've ever seen. The Pelicans want to be able to make a playoff run, and they need him on the court if they're going to do it. The clock is ticking, and patience is running thin with him, so he lands on this list because he needs to prove that he can survive a full season. And finally, the last player on this list that desperately needs a big bounce-back year is Chris Middleton of the Milwaukee Bucks. Middleton didn't look anything like an all-star last season, but he had a very reasonable excuse for it, as he was returning from a pretty serious knee injury. It will obviously take time for players to get back to full strength after injuries like that, and their production also takes a while to get back to where it was, if it ever does get back. The fact of the matter is that there's no guarantee that Middleton ever will get back to being the player that he was pre-injury, as we've seen with countless players over the years who have never gotten back to their best after injuries like this. With that being said, Middleton could and should still prove to be an incredibly solid secondary scoring threat, even if he's no longer all-star caliber. But the issue is that the Bucks are under more pressure than ever to remain in title contention, and if Middleton is no longer in that all-star caliber tier, then their chances do take a big hit. Giannis Antetokounmpo has been vocal about not wanting to sign an extension with Milwaukee if he doesn't feel that they give him the best chance to win, and they won't have the best chance to win if Middleton starts to slow down. They're coming off of an embarrassing first-round exit in last year's playoffs, so in order to get the team to bounce back, Middleton also has to bounce back. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the chances of these players bouncing back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.